Hello and welcome. Today's video is on how to build positive and healthy culture with a blended remote and on-site work culture in a new world. Hi, I'm Lisa Jackson, founder and CEO of Culture Pros, where we help companies change for good and create attraction cultures that are like a magnet for the people that you need to run and grow your company. Please hit subscribe below to get more videos on culture and change. 2020 has really tested our beliefs about work and our practices about work, about technology, about resiliency, about our ability to change and pivot. Clearly, companies have adjusted, but have you really accepted this as the new normal? Even in a remote world, it's a social structure. So wherever people are gathering, meeting, and conversing around a common outcome or mission, culture matters, and it's about whether you build it intentionally versus leaving it to chance. All right, let's dive in. Here are 5 positive culture tips that you can use to strengthen and build your culture during this transition. So first and foremost, number 1 is consistency. And that starts with leaders. So your first question, or my first question to you, is do you have 100% consensus on your leadership team that remote work is here to stay? And that means real buy-in, because if you've got some people who still believe that remote work is an excuse for people to stay home and do less work or watch Netflix, this is going to create a disjointed type of culture in which some employees feel they're very supported and others do not. So first and foremost is ensuring that leadership buy-in. You may have to sell it a little bit more. You may have to go out there and get some of those true statistics within your company or outside on how performance has not been impacted, but productivity has actually improved through the remote work transition. So one must do that all experts agree on is that you need to create a consistent experience for both your remote and your internal employees, because some people will be doing both. And so all of your policies, your practices, your onboarding, those need to be seamless between remote and on-site. And that probably means you're going to need to invest more in technology over the coming years, as well as investing in a consistent pulse checks around employee feedback of what you can do as an organization to make that blend work better for people. It's important to be sure that all of your remote and on-site workers receive the same kind of opportunities for praise and recognition for their efforts. Sometimes remote employees in particular have felt left out of the loop. Okay, tip number 2, the water cooler gap. So the big theme over the last year that I've heard that people miss most about the office is the impromptu conversations, the unplanned conversations. So one way that we've advised clients or coach clients to address this water cooler gap is through what we call planned serendipity. So finding ways to bring people together that normally would not come together. So if you have a Slack channel, for example, you could find people with common interests and pair them up for coffee conversations. If you have a new team member, that's a great opportunity for all the team members to share a little bit about their life story. You can rotate between team members to sponsor some kind of fun little social event on your regular office Zoom meetings. But the goal is to pair up people that normally wouldn't meet, wouldn't talk, and wouldn't have an opportunity to get to know each other. And it's okay for that to feel a little awkward at first. It will become normal as you practice it. I also think it's really important to plan a company retreat at least once a year that has nothing to do with work, especially now. And as things open up and get safer, that's going to be an important goal to bookmark. I know there are companies who have budgets in place for people to travel to meet one another in person. There really just is no substitute for that personal interface and connection, even with the technology being as good as it is today on Zoom and other platforms. Number 3 is about understanding the melding of social and work time better. So you've probably been doing a lot of things in this regard. Good relationships are at the core of any great culture, and just as they do in your family, it takes ongoing and constant work to make them work. So a few tips I've come across in this regard. One is to set common work hours. So if you are a global organization and you have to interface with people from different time zones, set common work hours. I know there's an example of an organization I've come across that is based in New York. They're a technology company and they have employees on the West Coast, they have employees in Europe. And so from 12 to 4 Eastern time is their common work hours. You don't have to be at a desk, but there is an expectation that you be available so that if a brief meeting is needed or a phone call is needed or you're checking your cell phone for texting, those are common work hours. Also needing to respect people's time. So normalize that juggling act around work and family and personal. If you have still a culture in which when someone disappears, the first knee-jerk reaction is, what are they doing? Then you need to do a little bit of work on setting expectations and having people stop rolling their eyes in leadership positions when someone's taking time off that isn't necessarily always the 8 to 5 schedule. And you'll find you reap a lot of rewards because this is, again, well-being, flexibility. Those are top themes for all employees in this day and age. Another one is to shorten meetings, especially with Zoom fatigue, but generally, one of the biggest complaints that I hear from my clients is that meetings waste a lot of time and they don't end with a clear outcome. So if you don't have a meeting planner in which you take 1 minute at the beginning to really set the tone, is this meeting, what's the purpose of this meeting? Is it to make a decision? Are we exploring? Are we socializing? And keeping them shorter and fewer people is always going to yield a lot better engagement in terms of your meeting culture. All right, number 4, leaders are coaches. I think every company should understand that if they have people managers, those people's number one job is coaching, and that managing the P&L isn't secondary, but it happens through the people rather than through a lot of project and busy work. So this is a big shift in mindset for a lot of organizations. Many have trained their leaders in coaching, but those skills are not being utilized, not as based on a lot of data over a lot of years. The job of managers of people is to support trust, collaboration, and well-being on their teams. That's it. And when you get that kind of culture right, it's magic. It's the kind of culture everybody wants to be a part of. And yet we still lack the basic tools and practices in most organizations to make that a reality. We also suggest, in the spirit of the leadership-led culture, monthly town hall meetings. When you've got virtual, you need to have those be shorter and making sure that the technology is there so every single person can listen to them at their desk rather than having to be in sight on a room. Another fun idea that I've helped a client organize is fun Friday updates. So this is, what are the big wins that we had for the week? This can and should be done departmentally, but it could be a really fun monthly thing to share what were the big wins inside the organization, and use those and cull those from your weekly updates. Some clients have taken a lot of liberties with fun memes around the Friday updates to show what is life like. For example, here I am on my Zoom meeting while I'm carpooling the kids, and this is life, and it's all good because overall company productivity has not diminished or decreased whatsoever. In fact, many companies it's gone up because people feel supported to juggle those responsibilities of their personal work and family life. Number 5, refresh your values. Now is a great time to allow people to think and weigh in on what our core values mean. If you've done a lot of work on these, it could be more about what are living examples of them? Do we need to refresh what they mean in a remote blended on-site work world? Bringing attention to the core values is the anchoring of your culture. It shows that how we work together actually really matters, regardless of whether you're sitting at your desk in an office or whether you're sitting at home. So take the opportunity to create a values jam and put some really cool energy around it, even if that means virtual whiteboarding tools and means bringing people together that normally aren't together for some kind of brainstorming sessions. You could also have a value of the month contest to see who wins the most examples I could find of people living the values in our organization. The last bonus tip is ask and act. Every organization needs some kind of pulse check or way to ask their employees for feedback. This can be through focus groups if you have a fairly high trust culture or you have an external vendor who can support you in that. It can be through surveys, but the key is to act on their feedback, implement those ideas and make it visible and thank the people who did. Maybe they get Culture Energizer awards for the fact that they came forward with a great idea and that got implemented. I love the idea of, or the example of HubSpot's Waffle Day, Waffle Wednesdays. And if you haven't read about that, Google it. It's really fun example of someone in the company who came up with this idea, and it was super fun, and it's gotten, quite a following over the years. Okay, so those are my tips for today. Thanks for listening. I hope you got a nugget or two that is useful for you. Have a great week, and we'll see you on the next video.